Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video I'm going to be giving my prediction for the Caroline Dubois versus Terri Harper fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and feel free to join the Patreon. This is a Patreon requested video. I'm going to be doing a video which will be out soon about the other title fights on this card, but this video in particular has been requested about just under a month before the actual fight, and so that's when this video is out, so a lot might change. The fight might not even happen, but hopefully everything's going to stay the same. The fight's going to happen, and this is my prediction for it. Of course, you can request your own content on there, any kind of combat sporting related videos, and I will try my best to get it out there for you guys. You can also use the Patreon for betting tips and advice, and yeah, let's get straight into this one. This is a real good fight, one that I've been calling for to happen for a while, and I do really feel like it's about time that we're seeing Dubois get in there with big name fighters against champions. And as we've known for a while, her ability is just really good, and she should be in there with the other champions. It's just never happened, and I suppose it's convenient to an extent that obviously it's now easy to be made now that Dubois and Terri Harper are in the same promotion, but it's convenient as well that Dubois is no longer with Boxer, and now all these kind of big fights actually seem real and more than just back and forths on Twitter. These two have gone back and forths, post fights for a little bit now. I think Dubois has said a couple things on Twitter when Terri Harper won the belt and when she defended it the first time, and I think Harper said one or two things when Dubois had a tougher test against Shin, where she was, going into a war in the final round. And like I said, they've had these kind of little backs and forths, and it's made for an exciting fight. And this fight could have happened one or two fights ago, but it just never did, and it never really seemed likely either. There was no real actual negotiations be made or anything like that, any kind of attempt from Boxer. And now that Caroline Dubois and Terri Harper's no longer with Matchroom and Caroline Dubois is no longer with Boxer, of course now it's easier, but I don't know, Boxer we've seen in the past kind of restrict their fighters from going and fighting against other guys and girls in with different promoters, and again it kind of seemed like that was happening now. But Dubois, again, she's now gone past that, and she's now in this stage with MVP, and there's a lot going on with MVP. This event is the start of something big with them. They're having their first UK event here, and they're now signing with ESPN as well, so this card will be on Sky and ESPN, and they're signing in America with ESPN as well, which is a big thing, because of course ESPN, kind of stopped being involved with combat sports as a whole, because they stopped working with Top Rank and they stopped working with the UFC, and now they're back just like that with boxing. They're having MVPW, which is all just female fights, which is going to be big to see, just ESPN only being involved with women's boxing. Again, it's interesting to see. I don't know what it means for any of the male fighters signed to MVP, if they're also going to be on ESPN as well, or if it's literally just the female fighters that are going to be on there, because they've kind of started their own brand and their own promotion of MVPW, which is, all the female fighters. But yeah, I don't know what that means for the rest of the male fighters, but nonetheless, like I said, this event is the start of something big and new with them. They've announced, other cards like Caroline Dubois versus Shin, of course, not Caroline Dubois, Alicia Baumgardner versus Shin. Of course, Caroline Dubois already fought Shin, so it's a bit of a random fight to make, but, it's happened. They've also got Holly Holm versus Stephanie Han too, which is, again, a bit of a random one to make as a rematch that nobody was really calling for, but, again, it's happened. But again, like I mentioned, it's the start of something big, and it's good to see that the female fighters are getting all this exposure. And again, this is a really good card as well, with female fighters like Emma Dolan, somebody who I've been campaigning for a while to get a shot at a world title, and I'll speak a bit more about that when I do my video based on kind of the undercard of this card. Dubois, I feel, did get a good American audience and kind of fan base on her side after her last fight, after dominating what was a lesser opponent in Penata, and that's okay, that's understandable, but like I say, it built a bit of an American fan base. You could see that the fans were kind of enjoying that and enjoying that bit more fast-paced action and power that she does bring, and she was able to get a knockdown along the way, which was nice. And with her talking back a bit to Baumgardner in the presser before, and like I say, getting a little bit of hype around the potential fight there, that's definitely something that they can build with MVP and make Dubois a big star. Of course, she's got the name of Dubois, but she can move away from being in her brother's shadow and actually start, like I say, going on for these big fights. And I really hope a Baumgartner fight could even happen at the back end of this year. Like I mentioned, Baumgartner is just fighting Shin, who Dubois already beat. Why not, Baumgartner fight Dubois? Obviously, Dubois got his fight with Harper, and I like this fight, but I think Baumgardner hasn't really got the best of options available to her in the super heavyweight division at the moment. So why not allow Baumgartner to move up into the lightweight division and fight Dubois. Again, I would be definitely here for that. And I think in general, Dubois, she has seemed a lot more expressive and talkative and kind of given a bit of back and forth and, just a lot more than what we ever have seen from Dubois. She seemed confident, but she's never really been going back and forth. Since signing with MVP, she's got that confidence and she's doing it. She went with Baumgartner and now she's been doing, going back and forth. There was a face-to-face and a head-to-head. And they were both just going back and forth, but Dubois was definitely the one that was giving it more and, like I say, showing that passion a little bit more for the fight. For Harper, though, this is a big chance for her to cause an upset. Even as a champion, she's found a good spot to be able to be in the lightweight division, but she's not the favourite in this fight. That's definitely not going to be the case, and so she's really going to have to go out there and cause an upset, I feel. And like I say, even though she is the champion, she has gone and caused an upset before when she did pick up the belt against Rhiannon Dixon. That was Rhiannon Dixon on a Matchroom show, of course. Well, I think Harper was still with Matchroom at that point, but still Dixon, it was in Manchester, I believe, and it was an event based around Rhiannon Dixon, really, but Harper was able to go out there and cause the upset. Could she do the same here? I would feel like it's definitely the toughest test of Dubois' career so far. Dubois has kind of been facing female fighters from all over the world, bar England, and so it's about time, as well, that she's getting a fight with a UK opponent. And Harper's got the experience. She's been in there with plenty of good fighters. She's fought, Cecilia Brackhouse. She's fought Natasha Jonas. She's fought Sandy Ryan, she's fought Rhiannon Dixon, of course. I'm probably missing one or two names on there as well, but she's definitely fought some good names. Habazin as well, a few good former champions as well. And she's won some, she's lost a couple, but for the most part, she's in a good stage at the moment. Like I say, found a good division to be in with the lightweight division. And to be fair, I mean, when the Dixon Harper fight was set, I was definitely thinking Harper was a kind of a shot fight with not really much left to give, because I watched the Harper versus Ryan fight. I was live there ringside, and it just didn't really look like Harper had much to give. But that was up at the welterweight division. Of course, now moving down, it was, like I say, a no-brainer really in hindsight that it was a good move for her. And I mean, the question is really, is there anything she can do to stop Dubois' kind of force and the power in which she has, and is she going to get caught with, walking onto shots, or is she going to be able to, like say, box around her and actually use her fundamentals to cause her problems? Dubois, as a fighter though, she plants her feet well. She carries, in my opinion, definitely more power than that of Harper, and we've seen that on multiple occasions with the multiple knockdowns in which she's been able to get. She's started to really throw and move off nicely, and that was something in which she did very impressively against Pinata. She was doing it nicely against Shin as well, where she is, like I say, just throwing and moving off and stepping off and creating a new angle, which is just something in which a lot of fighters don't do, knowing when to disengage and kind of doing that well. She doesn't always know when to disengage, but, like I say, the moving off and the not getting in a cornered, stuck position, even as a back foot fighter, is impressive. A back foot fighter that plants her feet well to not get stuck in a corner position is very impressive, and I feel like just very rare as well. She's starting to get her head off the line more. It's something in which she's had to learn and develop, because in a few of her past fights she hasn't always really done that, and she does have moments where it's just kind of on the line, she is taking punches, but it is starting to get off the line more. She's got a good timing. That's something in which, like I say, has led to her with her power catching her opponents on multiple occasions. She's got fast hands. She fully commits to the big overhands nicely. She fights off the back foot typically, so I think she'll allow Harper on the front foot for this fight. And she gets back to her jab nicely as well. When she creates the angle, she gets back to the jab. Again, similarly to Harper, she gets back to her jab well, but that's a bit more, like, say, in the centre of a ring. And, when she resets, it's a lot more of a reset and get back to just jabbing, whereas Dubois is just resetting and getting back to then set up a big shot again. Negatives about Dubois: I don't think she finishes fights that well, and she doesn't use that power to then follow it up with more power punches all that often. She can land a big shot, which is quite dramatic, and drop her opponent, and she's done that, like I mentioned, on quite a few occasions, but she's just never actually been able to really knock out her opponents, and so, like I said, not really using that power to go out there and really finish fights. She doesn't really mix in more than 2 shots often, whereas Harper probably would be more comfortable mixing in combinations, in my opinion, more than just the 2 shots. She doesn't always show the full variety in her shot selection, and she can start to headhunt quite often as well in fights. It's really nice when she mixes in going to the body, but she can, like I say, just have moments where she's hunting, especially if she is, trying to get her opponent out of there. She can be caught loading up. She does drop her hands, both her hands when she is throwing. She'll throw with one, and then, that will be from the throwing position where it's quite wide, and then she's dropping the other hand as well, so she's definitely open to get caught with counters. She can leave her head in close, and that can lead her to getting caught with smaller shots. And I think Shin, when she started having success, that Shin fight was probably the closest and most competitive fight we've seen from Dubois so far, but Dubois was still dominating. It's just like I say, in that final round, Dubois started leaving her head in a lot more and not really timing shots as much, and just went toe to toe with Shin, because it was probably because she was knowing that was the final round, and I think she was quite tired as well. And yeah, like I say, just leaving her head and getting caught with lots of small shots, being quite open as well. And I don't feel like she actually handles constant pressure that well. I think Harper will put on a decent level of pressure, but it won't be constant high output pressure, I don't believe. But Harper maybe be able to do that. Harper as a fighter, she disengages well, taking a nice kind of step back. Again, she does it nice, but not as nice as Dubois when she's stepping off. She just takes that step back instead. It's a bit more fundamental. In general, to be fair, Harper has got very solid fundamentals. She can mix in her combinations pretty well. She works at a range best, in my opinion. She resets back to a jab nicely. She's got decent overall footwork. Again, possibly, better to offensive footwork than that of Dubois. But again, the defensive footwork of Dubois has shown that it has developed a bit. She can work in body shots nicely. She gets a jab off to something to then allow it to be followed up. She will, throw the jab, she'll then mix in some kind of variety of shot to then follow it up. And again, like I say, just very solid fundamentals, mixing in combinations, probably more comfortable throwing combinations than that of Dubois, and a bit, less tense when she's being the offensive fighter, but when she does get caught and when she's under physical pressure and output, she does tense up a lot more, and when she's in close, she can tense up a lot. And to carry on kind of speaking about negatives about her head movement is more limited, in my opinion, than that of Dubois. She can put herself in too close when she's throwing. If she's trying to step into a bigger shot or trying to step into any kind of overhand, then she is just putting herself way too in a close position, whereas Dubois can hold her position and throw an overhand better. She doesn't really gain her opponent's respect or really slow them down that much, so this could be a fight where maybe if Dubois lands a good shot, she's allowed to go into the front foot then. She doesn't really punish her opponents that much or really hurt them a tremendous amount. In her last fight against Zimmerman, I feel like her opponent was there for the taking a bit more than she actually offered. But, it was a one-sided fight, but she didn't really turn up to tempo much, in my opinion, to really, like I say, dominate or to stamp her authority. And she's got a weak guard as well, and like I say, she can wilt under that kind of physical pressure and output, and I think she definitely did against Sandy Ryan. Of course, Sandy Ryan was a welterweight, and at the time a welterweight. She's now moved down to super lightweight, but at the time she was a welterweight, and she was quite a big, physical welterweight. I don't think Terri Harper, has fought anybody as physical since Sandy Ryan, and I think Dubois has the ability to be, and she is physically stronger than, like I say, the likes of Rhiannon Dixon or a Zimmerman. So again, we'll have to wait and see if Terri Harper can deal with that if Dubois starts mixing in the bigger shots for a more prolonged period of time. Who do I think is going to win? I think Caroline Dubois is going to win via a unanimous decision. I think it's going to be a pretty solid performance. I think she's going to land, and Harper's not really going to be too sure or too comfortable. I don't think she's going to stop Harper Dubois, but I think, like I say, I think she's going to dominate. I think she's going to be able to be comfortable on the back foot. I think Harper's fundamentals are good, but they won't be compact enough and complete enough to deal with Dubois, who I think is developing still with each fight. I think she's growing with each fight. The head movement's improving. The stepping off after throwing is a nice thing. It will just be interesting to see if it goes into them later rounds how Dubois is lasting, if she is going to start going toe to toe, and if she does, then I think Terri Harper, she isn't going to punish Dubois enough in them final rounds, if she is getting tired and trying to go toe to toe more. So who do I think Dubois could go on to fight next if she wins this fight? I mean, she could go on to fight Baumgardner after her Shin fight if she beats Shin. Again, that could be a good fight, and if they're trying to build a big thing with Baumgardner and get her on these big shows, then why not actually get her against good high-level opposition? Again, we'll have to wait and see. Or Stephanie Han versus Holly Holm, like I mentioned, that's for the WBA title. The winner of that for the rematch, that could, be an opponent for Dubois. Again, pretty easy one to make there. Or Pamela Sawa is the only contender really in the lightweight division that makes sense as a possible opponent for Dubois outside of a title fight, just because she's undefeated. And like I say, it could happen as a fight. We'll have to wait and see. I think she's IBO champion as well. It's a former belt in which Dubois used to have. So maybe she could allow that. The likes of Elif Nurturhan, I just doubt will happen. I would like to see it because it'd be an all-out war and a pure power punching fight, which could be one of the most exciting fights we see from, a female perspective in the way of power that we've seen for a while. But I just don't see it happening at the moment with Matchroom having, Turhan and everything like that. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did indeed like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.